Chapter 91. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The old man was so angry that he was lying on the ground. Qin Wanjun looked at Su Zhe and was already lost in thought. Holy Sun. She didn't know what to say, and was already speechless. Even though she was weak, she had no time to care, and only felt that this was like a dream. Suddenly. Brother Su. Brother Su Zhe, are you okay? Holy Sun, Elder Qin. Calls came from the back. Voices were coming quickly. The first to come were Xian Ping and Mu Qing, who were now rushing over with anxious faces. Behind them, Elder Ouyang, Dai Ji, and a group of Dao sect disciples were also extremely anxious, fearing that they were too late. In fact, it was not that they were slow, but that Su Zhe was too fast. The group arrived at the scene, and then they were stunned, looking around with an unbelievable look on their faces. This. Their eyes widened, and their hearts were shaking. Being on this battlefield, they felt the terrifying aftermath that had not yet completely dissipated, and at the same time saw the shocking and terrifying gully that Su Zhe cut out with his sword. Especially the piles of monster corpses in the surrounding area made their scalps explode. This is not a battlefield. It is clearly a terrifying hell. Because Su Zhe disliked the slow speed before, he came at full speed. Xian Ping, Mu Qing, and Dai Ji chased all the way, and even met Elder Ouyang leading the Dao sect disciples on the way, so they came together. On the way, I also felt the shocking wave spreading. I thought it would be dangerous for Su Zhe to come alone, and Qin Wanjun was in deep crisis and needed support, but now, where are the monsters? Where are the enemy's powerful kings? The current battlefield situation is completely opposite to what they worried about. In an instant, everyone's eyes were on Su Zhe, who was dressed in flawless white and looked calm. The monster army here, and that king monster. Xian Ping widened his eyes, as if he had guessed something, and looked at Su Zhe with a dry mouth. Before he finished speaking, Su Zhe nodded, glanced around coldly, and grinned. A bunch of trash. You don't need so many people to kill them. I am enough. Kill all. Kill all. Brother Su, you. Xian Ping got the answer, and his innocent face was suddenly full of shock. As for the others. Bang! They looked at Su Zhe, who seemed to be doing something insignificant. Their minds exploded, and every cell in their bodies was shaking. Kill them all. These three words, which were so light and casual, sounded like endless thunder in their ears. Su Zhe destroyed a monster army alone, and also killed a monster king. Originally, they knew that Su Zhe had come alone to support, and the terrifying movement before was fighting with monsters. But they didn't expect, this was actually a crazy massacre. And Su Zhe, undoubtedly became a killing god. An entire monster army was destroyed by him, facing the powerful Dark Tai, and even the opponent had a king, but still could not avoid the end of being killed. Such a crazy result, it was actually done by Su Zhe alone. Everyone present looked at Su Zhe with unprecedented horror in their eyes. In addition to their bodies trembling uncontrollably, the waves of shock in their hearts reached an unprecedented height. Holy Sun, Holy Sun. After being stunned for a while, Ouyang Chen and a group of Dao sect disciples had goosebumps all over their bodies. The Holy Sun in front of them was really different. The Holy Sun, who had worried the Dao sect elders and angered them for not fighting, now shone his dazzling light on the battlefield outside the domain. The young master of the imperial clan, invincible on the battlefield, can kill the king with a saint. In an instant, the scene exploded. Holy Sun, the future supreme of the human race, the nemesis of monsters. Not only was a legion led by a powerful king destroyed by the Holy Sun, but even the king was killed by the Holy Sun. The Holy Sun is invincible, the Holy Sun is mighty. The hope of the human race. So far, has there been any human genius who can kill a powerful monster king in the battlefield outside the domain? Ha ha ha. Elder Ouyang and the disciples of Dao sect roared with all their might, their faces flushed, and their foreheads were exposed with blue veins. They looked at Su Zhe with endless spirit in their eyes. Fanaticism, boiling. The Holy Sun's amazing performance made, they don't know how to express their feelings now. This result is undoubtedly exciting and inspiring to the human race. At this moment on this battlefield. In addition to Xian Ping, Mu Qing, Dai Ji and the people of Tai Shang Dao Zong, there are more figures coming quickly. Knowing that Su Zhe destroyed a legion alone and killed the powerful monster king, all the geniuses present were horrified and their eyes were about to burst. Boom! Their minds were exploding, and their faces turned pale as they looked at the battlefield where blood flowed like a river and countless monster corpses piled up. Turning the originally fierce battlefield into a deadly place, so far, there is only Su Zhe, right? Among these geniuses, in addition to the East region, there are also geniuses from other places. The top leaders of the major forces, but now facing Su Zhe, who is the focus of everyone's attention on the battlefield, they feel supreme pressure and most people are ashamed of themselves. No one could have imagined that the son of the Supreme Dao sect, the young master of the Emperor clan, who was rumored to be so terrible, could show such terrifying strength outside the domain. Even if he was only at the Saint Realm, he was still able to kill the King Realm monsters with great force. That's young Master Su. Faced with so many monsters, Su Zhe came alone regardless of everything to rescue the elders and disciples of the Supreme Dao sect who were in deep crisis and could not even see a way out. What a great courage, what a terrifying strength, is this the Holy Son of the Supreme Dao sect? If it were anyone else, they would have run away long ago. After all, that would be tantamount to committing suicide, but Su Zhe. He was like 1,000 troops alone, and the monster army was destroyed by him alone. Facing the terrifying existence of the venerable King Realm, he was still not afraid and killed it forcefully. In the same Supreme Dao sect, Su Zhe is still the Holy Son, the young master of the Imperial clan, but even so, even if he was alone, he did not give up the Dao sect that was deeply surrounded. People fought their way out, much better than Lin Yi who always made big promises. That's right, he said he would take us to find fortune, but now. So many people died, and we are covered with wounds. It's okay if we don't have much military merit, but where is the fortune? If I had known earlier, I would have followed Su Zhe. At least I wouldn't have encountered so many dangers if I followed him. I didn't get any benefits from following Lin Yi, and I almost lost my life. I quit. Fuck your mother's fortune. If you want to stay, you can stay by yourselves. I won't accompany you. Following such a bastard, let alone military merit, you still want to seek fortune. In the bursts of screams, some people were stunned, and some fell to the ground. What is a genius? Su Zhe is the real genius. I am not qualified to compare with him at all. After the shock, everyone was excited, with fanaticism in their eyes. Such people are worth following. At this time, everyone present looked at the young man in front of them, snorted coldly, and many people left the team. Chapter 92. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The two of them were so busy that they had to face each other. Lin Yi watched as some people in the team left one after another, his face already gloomy. Now that the good fortune is right in front of us, are you sure you want to leave? That even though he was compared with Su Zhe, he still suppressed his anger and asked in a deep voice. Along the way, these people resolved a lot of dangers for him for the good fortune he mentioned. Now they only need to break through the turbulence to reach their destination, so of course he doesn't want all of them to leave. After all, there is still value in using them. Hearing this. If we don't leave, will we leave our lives here? You said you are following you to find the good fortune, but in my opinion, you just want to use us as cannon fodder, right? That among the people who left, someone turned around and gave a cold answer, and then left without looking back. The dozen people who were still hesitating suddenly made a decision. Lin Yi, I shouldn't have listened to you at the beginning. What do you mean you are not worse than Su Zhe? Compared with him, you are much worse. We put our hopes on him when our fellow disciples were besieged by monsters. Don't dream, let's go quickly. We should have followed Su Zhe at that time. Even if our light was overshadowed by him, it would be safe at least. Maybe those who followed him had more military merits than us. You can find the so-called good fortune slowly. We won't accompany you anymore. That they looked resentful and didn't stay any longer. They all turned around and left. Soon, all the people who were still alive in the original team left this dangerous space. Seeing this, Lin Yi gritted his teeth, his face was so gloomy that water was about to drip out. Su Zhe, you ruined my good thing again. A fierce light flashed in his eyes, staring at the battlefield where Su Zhe was, and roared wildly in his heart. Originally, with these people, he could save some time. But now, without these scapegoats, he would have to face the danger alone. Lin Yi's expression gradually twisted, and he could not control his inner anger. Damn it! He looked at the backs of those who left, and was about to fall into a runaway. Look for opportunities first. Dan Chen's rebuke came to his mind. Hearing this, Lin Yi's chest rose and fell, and his inner thoughts were difficult to calm down. Wait until I find the great fortune that Dan Lao said, Su Zhe, you wait for me. His eyes flashed with coldness, and he tried his best to restrain himself and looked at the ruins of the palace not far away. There is a great opportunity there. Dan Lao said that as long as he can get it, he will improve in all aspects. With eyes full of passion. When I get the opportunity here, it will be my time to rise. He took a deep breath, and a stream of light surged on his body. He stepped into the chaotic space turbulence. And at this moment, young Master Su's style will surely bloom in this extraterritorial battlefield. The name of Su Xingzi will be remembered by the monsters. In the near future, they will face a more powerful Su Xingzi. At such a young age, he already has the posture of a commander. The future extraterritorial monsters will tremble and crawl at the feet of Su Xingzi. Congratulations in advance to the Su family for having another supreme. No, with young Master Su's talent, it may be another emperor. The battlefield where Su Zhe was full of people. Countless people cheered. They cheered Su Zhe's invincibility and the future strongest of the human race. As the young master of the imperial family. And the son of the supreme Dao sect. Su Zhe undoubtedly has the qualifications. Amidst the enthusiastic shouts, the people of the supreme Dao sect were also excited and extremely happy. Ha ha ha. Elder Ouyang laughed wantonly, laughing so hard that his mouth was almost stretched to the back of his head. The holy son in front of him, will definitely be able to find an invincible way. The future pillar of the Hunyuan continent, the hope of the human race. Amid the cheers, Xian Ping also seemed quite happy, but when he saw Qin Wanjun in Su Zhe's arms, he asked in confusion, Brother Su, what are you doing? Ah, where did Brother Su Zhe find this beautiful woman? Mu Qin also opened her eyes wide and covered her mouth in surprise. Beside her, Dai Ji also came back to her senses slightly, looking at Qin Wanjun who was being held by Su Zhe. Her nose was inexplicably sour. This feeling is very strange. Others also reacted and looked at Qin Wanjun who was held by Su Zhe, with different expressions, faced with so many eyes. Su Zhe did not speak, but Qin Wanjun was stunned. When she trembled, her charming face turned red. I. After she learned that Su Zhe had really destroyed a monster army and killed the monster of the king realm that she couldn't kill, she fell into deep shock. Now that she came to her senses, she noticed that she was held by the Son of God from beginning to end. Her pretty face became even redder, and she didn't know what to say at all. She looked up at Su Zhe again, looking at a loss, seeing Qin Wanjun's little woman's attitude. Elder Qin, you. Elder Ouyang also looked stunned and wanted to ask. Qin Wanjun's eyes flashed with panic, and she hurriedly said, Don't misunderstand, Elder Ouyang, I was injured in the fight with that monster before, and it was the Son of God who saved me, so, this big sister went to my brother Su Zhe's arms. Mu Qin blinked her bright eyes and said curiously, as soon as this was said. The Holy Son and this woman are a perfect match. There was laughter at the scene. Many people looked at Qin Wanjun in Su Zhe's arms, pretending to be eating melons, and whispered to each other and talked about it. The two of them looked that like a domineering holy son holding his little wife. In response, Qin Wanjun's face was as red as a ripe apple, and her whole body was hot. No, it's not what you think. Her heartbeat accelerated, her expression was panic, and she quickly looked at Su Zhe and said, "Holy son, please put me down, otherwise everyone will misunderstand." She said this, but her ears were red. It was so embarrassing. Under the encouragement of all parties, Su Zhe smiled, and then slowly put Qin Wanjun down to avoid embarrassing her. However, when Su Zhe really put her down, Qin Wanjun felt a little lost inexplicably. "Thank you, Saint Son, for saving my life." She didn't dare to look up at Su Zhe's eyes, and spoke softly. This time, there were more discussions. But in the crowd. Stinky woman. Shi Yufei, who was watching all this, was unhappy, and her heart was full of anger and jealousy. Su Zhe actually hugged a woman other than himself. Originally, she learned that the man she hated before destroyed a monster army alone and killed a king-level monster. She was still hesitant about how to win back the heart of Su Zhe who had become so outstanding. But unexpectedly, the other party actually hugged the Danfeng elder of Dao sect. According to a woman's intuition, the relationship between the two does not seem to be simple. With anger in her heart, Shi Yufei couldn't stand it, strode out, stared at Qin Wanjun and shouted coldly, "As the elder of the supreme Dao sect, you are shameless and seduce Su Zhe." Chapter 93. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The sound of the voice of Master Yufei was very loud. The scene, which was originally full of people, suddenly became silent. The disciples of Dao's sect were confused. Elder Ouyang's expression suddenly changed. Even Qin Wanjun, whose heart was still beating fast, was stunned. What did you say?" She was breathing rapidly, and her beautiful eyes suddenly turned cold. But, Master Yufei still didn't care, not paying attention to other people's eyes at all, and said with resentment, "I said you." "Pa!" However, before she finished her words, her body was slapped away by a huge force. She fell heavily to the ground. I saw. Su Zhe's eyes flashed with cold light, and he said extremely coldly, "Are you looking for death?" This sentence made everyone around shudder. After coughing up blood, Shi Yufei got up with difficulty, looked at Su Zhe with a dull look, then pointed at Qin Wanjun, and said with grievance, "Su Zhe, is it her? Are you looking for death?" Su Zhe didn't wait for her to finish, and slapped her again, suppressing her to kneel on the ground, and spoke coldly again. His face was full of indifference, and his eyebrows were filled with murderous intent. Facing Su Zhe in such a state, no one dared to say a word. At this moment everyone could feel that the temperature was obviously dropping. Shi Yufei struggled to get up, her breath was already disordered, and she stared blankly at Su Zhe not far away. What is your relationship with her?" A red palm print appeared on one side of her face, and she asked in a trembling voice. This man had been rejected so many times and never acted like this, but now he has completely changed. He has become strange and suffocated. Su Zhe looked indifferent and had no patience for this stupid woman. He sneered, "You are not qualified to ask about my affairs. Su Zhe, why do you treat me like this? Now I know I am wrong. I can give you a chance to pursue me, okay?" Shi Yufei's heart trembled, and she felt deeply powerless. Now she was even more embarrassed and spoke hurriedly. This man's excellence was far beyond her expectations. The previous rejection seemed to be really wrong. In a sigh. Are you worthy?" Su Zhe's words were cold, and he didn't even want to look at this woman, and this sentence, also made Shi Yufei collapse. She looked at Qin Wanjun with anger on her face and said sternly, "It's you. You must have seduced Su Zhe. He wouldn't have treated me like this before. Are you looking for death?" Su Zhe frowned and snorted coldly. In an instant, the surrounding wind howled. The space vibrated, as if in anger. Before Shi Yufei finished her words, she felt a huge force falling on her chest. Puff, that she coughed up blood, her face turned pale, and her body flew backwards 100 feet. She fell heavily to the ground, and her consciousness began to fade. But the resentment in her heart made her raise her head again, unable to believe that Su Zhe would treat her like this. When she noticed Su Zhe's murderous face and eyes. Bang! Shi Yufei staggered to the ground after just standing up, her face was pale, and her body couldn't stop shaking. That look was so cold and terrifying. She didn't dare to look directly at it again, and her soul was trembling. Su Zhe at the moment, he would really kill me. He had never seen such a look before. But now, Su Zhe wanted to kill me. How could this happen? How could this happen? Injured, Shi Yufei coughed up blood again, as if she couldn't bear this huge blow, and kept muttering in a trance, seeing this. Who does this woman think she is? Young Master Su is also such a person. How shameless. You regret it now. It's too late. Even if the Holy Sun kills you, he will not be held accountable, because you are a dispensable existence, so the Holy Sun can just kill you. Is she the woman who pretends to be noble and rejects the Holy Sun? TSK. It's her own fault. She doesn't even look at herself. It's a blessing for her family to be able to talk to the Holy Sun. It's really interesting. What does it have to do with you how the Holy Sun acts? A bitch is a bitch, she deserves it. I don't know where she got the nerve to pester the Holy Sun. If it were me, I would have killed myself a long time ago. Now she is pretending to be pitiful. Do you really think the Holy Sun will fall for your tricks? Not only the disciples of Dao's sect were sarcastic, but even the many powerful geniuses around them spoke coldly. Amidst all the cold words and ridicule, Shi Yufei's face was bloodless, and her breath was extremely disordered. Puff, that she was so angry that she coughed up blood, her consciousness blurred in an instant, and she fainted. She didn't want to believe this until she fell down completely. Seeing this, Elder Ouyang frowned and snorted, "It's embarrassing, take her back." That the two disciples walked out with disgust and took her away directly. Su Zhe didn't look at her for long, but looked at Qin Wanjun who looked unnatural next to him, and said calmly, "A bitch who can't figure out her identity, Elder Qin doesn't need to take it to heart." Yeah. Qin Wanjun looked at Su Zhe and nodded weakly. At this time, in Su Zhe's mind, the voice of the system came. The host successfully suppressed the heroine, making her regretful, and gained plus 5,000 villain value. He got the prompt from the system and was quite satisfied. Although Shi Yufei was like a fly, she could still provide the value she deserved. He immediately took a look at the villain value. It was still a little short of 100,000. The system said again, "Host, do you choose to draw a lottery?" "Draw your sister." Su Zhe's mouth twitched, and he hurriedly recalled in his mind. This guy is even more concerned about the villain value than himself, at this moment. Buzz. A buzzing sound that permeated the entire battlefield spread from the depths. In an instant, the sky shook. The ground under everyone's feet was also shaking. What's going on? Everyone's face suddenly changed, and they looked around, and then they all looked in the same direction. In the deepest part of this battlefield, there was a beam of light that rushed into the sky and connected to the sky. Not only that, they could also feel a tremendous pressure descending on this world. Xin Ping's innocent face showed a look of surprise, pointing to the direction of the strange phenomenon and said, that is the breath of the Supreme." As soon as these words came out, the scene exploded. What Xin Ping said caused an uproar at the scene. As the son of the emperor, he can naturally contact the Supreme. What he said must be right. But how could there be a supreme powerhouse on the battlefield here? In the midst of everyone's doubts. I almost forgot. Su Zhe saw the huge beam of light that connected the sky, and a gleam of light flashed in his eyes. Didn't Lin Yi, who had left alone long ago, go to look for an opportunity? It seems that this guy has found it. More and more turbulent waves spread out. The dog's nose is quite sensitive. Suze could feel the desire revealed by the innate supreme bone in his body, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Chapter 94. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The old man was very angry, but he was very angry. That's the direction Lin Yi went before. Qin Wanjun seemed to remember something and spoke. Hearing this, the elder frowned and snorted coldly. He saw you trapped in the siege but didn't help. In an instant, his good impression of Lin Yi was completely shattered. Everyone present was looking at the strange scene that filled the sky and the earth, and their chests rose and fell violently. Since there will be no supreme strongmen in this marginal battlefield, then, is there a treasure related to the supreme being about to be born? Supreme treasure. Such a terrifying supreme pressure, even if it is just a breath, it makes me unable to breathe. After the shock, exclamations rang out from all directions. In an instant, the whole place was boiling. The eyes of countless people revealed fanaticism and endless greed. Treasures related to the Supreme Being. No matter what it is, as long as you can get it, it will definitely be a great fortune. Of course, it will also be accompanied by endless murderous intent. Even if this war is a struggle between the Hunyuan realm and the monsters outside the domain. But under this kind of treasure, if you are not capable enough, even if you get it, it will bring about a disaster of death. But, so what? At this time, everyone present had red eyes, and reason was suppressed by desire. Boom boom. There were also huge roars from other battle zones. Even the monsters were alarmed. Suze looked at the place where the light column connected to the sky, where a vast and terrifying red vortex had formed, and his eyes narrowed. With me here, this fortune does not belong to you. He thought of the fact that Lin Yi would rise to prominence because of this in the original book, and a sneer appeared on his face again. Without any hesitation, he did not say anything to the elders, and rushed towards the direction of the strange phenomenon like a stream of light. When everyone reacted, Suze's figure had disappeared. Seeing this, Elder Ouyang took a deep breath and said, "Let's go, the Holy Sun cannot make any mistakes. If there is a chance, you can help the Holy Sun to grab the treasure." As soon as the voice fell, he left in an instant. The disciples of Dao's sect all nodded when they heard this. Even though Qin Wanjun was injured, she followed without hesitation. In an instant, almost the entire edge battlefield noticed the terrifying image and the aura of the Supreme Master that suppressed all directions. Countless figures rushed out frantically, and under the temptation of the treasure, they had already lost their minds. Even the monsters on the battlefield were no exception. At the same time, in the depths of the dark edge battlefield, a huge palace ruin was constantly shaking. In its center, there was a beam of light connecting the sky. The terrifying aura spread out, making this space appear to be collapsing at any time. At this time, on the edge of the ruins, a figure was struggling to move forward. Lin Yi was breathing rapidly and was already sweating profusely. Dan Lao, what a terrifying pressure, such a big movement, I'm afraid it has attracted the attention of the entire battlefield now. He spoke with difficulty, trembling all over and moving towards the direction of the light column. Looking at the terrifying vision on the sky that seemed like a raging sea of fire about to collapse, he began to get anxious. Other people noticed this vast vision, and the fluctuations that spread for thousands of miles would inevitably attract the attention of countless people. Maybe someone would come soon. So hurry up, before someone comes, take the fortune here as soon as possible. Dan Chen's voice came out. Hearing this, Lin Yi gritted his teeth and continued to move towards the center of the ruins under pressure. Dan Lao, what is that? He looked up every 3 steps, his eyes full of shock and desire. That breath made him greedy. Even Dan Lao said before that this treasure could make him change his fate against the will of heaven. He moved closer by more than 10 feet. This breath, the supreme origin. Dan Chen exclaimed. Supreme origin. Lin Yi trembled all over, and his face showed an unconcealable ecstasy. This is much better than any natural treasures. The origin of the Supreme Being, is undoubtedly the true creation of heaven and earth. Most of the supreme beings will leave something behind when they die, proving that they exist in the world. Or they will leave blessings for people in later generations to obtain, etc. The lifespan of a supreme being can almost be said to be the same as the sky, immortal and indestructible, but I didn't expect that there would be a supreme being outside this domain, this fall. And left behind the supreme origin. Lin Yi almost couldn't help laughing wildly, his expression had become ferocious. This supreme origin is mine. He was ecstatic and continued to speed up his pace. But the deeper he got, the stronger the pressure. Even the vibration of the entire ruins became stronger and stronger, and it was possible to bring signs of the collapse of this space at any time. At this time, I didn't expect that there would be a supreme origin here. The breath I sensed before was too weak. There should be a barrier here. I think it's too long to support continued hiding. Boy, you've made a fortune. If you can absorb it, your future path will definitely be smooth sailing. Dan Chen's voice came out again, but it was with uncontrollable excitement. Hearing this, Lin Yi was very excited, and his whole face flushed. Dan Lao, this is all your credit. Don't worry, when I get this supreme origin and rise up, I will definitely help you reshape a precious body that gathers the creation of heaven and earth. He laughed loudly, determined to get the supreme origin. He was not too worried about the vast vision here that would attract other people, even monsters. The turbulence outside almost destroyed his body, and he had difficulty entering this space. Even if you are in the realm of the king, you have to think twice before entering. However, facing the temptation of the supreme origin, Lin Yi, under the terrifying pressure and the huge force that came upon himself, relied on Dan Chen's help and never stopped. Su Zhe, after this war, there will be no gap between you and me. He showed a twisted smile on his face, and his emotions were extremely excited. Every step he took, even if he had to endure great pain, the excitement in his eyes was even stronger. After walking for dozens of feet, Lin Yi's body trembled, and a flash of panic flashed in his eyes. It's you. He could feel a pair of eyes looking at him from behind, and he turned around suddenly and saw Su Zhe, who seemed to be smiling outside the turbulence. This smile fell into his eyes, and he was instantly furious. I didn't expect Su Zhe to come so quickly. It wasn't long after the noise, and he arrived. All along, Su Zhe was like a thorn in the flesh, and he couldn't get rid of it no matter how hard he tried. Don't let him mess up your mind, he can't get in for a while, speed up, and seize the supreme origin in one fell swoop. Dan Chen warned in a deep voice. This time, for Su Zhe's appearance, his words were hurried, revealing panic. Chapter 95. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The turbulent space flow, Su Zhe saw Lin Yi's panic and felt the supreme fluctuations. Supreme origin. He did not rush to leave, and confidence emerged in his eyes. In the original book, Su Zhe got the supreme origin, and his strength increased significantly. After that, he became famous in the battlefield outside the domain. It was for this reason that he was able to rise strongly and suppress many proud sons of heaven, even Xian Ping, Mu Qing and other top monsters in Hunyuan continent. This is undoubtedly a great fortune. But Su Zhe was not worried that Lin Yi would get the supreme origin in front of him, but was curious about how much villain value he could get, or how much luck he could plunder from the other party. They are all here. He put away his thoughts and looked around. Countless figures are coming from all directions. In addition to the human cultivators, there are monsters surging in from the other end. Xian Ping, Mu Qing, Elder Ouyang and others are also here. They saw Su Zhe, who had already set foot here, and they all came here. This breath, the original breath. Is that Lin Yi? Ouyang Chen and Qin Wanjuan's hearts trembled suddenly, their scalps tingled, and their breathing became rapid. Looking at the huge beam of light rising into the sky, they couldn't help but reveal a fiery look in their eyes. But when they saw Lin Yi, everyone in Dao's sect couldn't help but be surprised. Xian Ping looked at Su Zhe and asked softly, Brother Su, do you want this supreme origin? Yes. But that person seems to be about to succeed. He can't succeed, this supreme origin can only be mine. Facing Xin Ping pointing at Lin Yi who was advancing in the palace ruins, Su Zhe sneered and spoke. Hearing this, Xin Ping and Mu Qin blinked their eyes curiously, not thinking too much about the supreme origin. They didn't fight for what Brother Su wanted. Suddenly. Ah! There was a scream. I saw many figures stepping into the space turbulence area in front, and they were strangled invisibly in an instant. Souls flew away. Even so, more and more figures were like moths to a flame, constantly trying to enter the palace ruins. But it was obvious that they were sending themselves to death. People kept dying in the chaotic turbulence. This turbulence was like an invisible barrier, and it was almost impossible to get through it safely. Even if there were powerful monsters who wanted to force their way across, they would still end up falling. That's the supreme origin. Countless eyes revealed passion and greed. Faced with such temptation, everyone on the scene was crazy. But under the madness, a large number of lives were destroyed. In a few breaths of time, the number of human cultivators and monsters who died in the turbulence was over thousands. But faced with the temptation of the supreme origin, both human cultivators and monsters who wanted to compete for opportunities, all of them entered the turbulent space like crazy, and were then strangled to death. Under the reflection of the vision, outside the ruins of the palace, countless corpses piled up like mountains, shocking. Now the corpses of humans and monsters are constantly added. The flesh and blood stained on the bones looked quite creepy. Amid the screams and crazy shouts, Su Zhe moved. Seeing him take a step forward, Qin Wanjun hurriedly said worriedly, "Holy Son, be careful. Don't worry, Elder Qin, I'm not one of those trash." Su Zhe turned around and chuckled, and his words immediately attracted the gazes of the demon geniuses, which contained a mocking look. But no one dared to speak. After all, Su Zhe's previous performance on the battlefield was too scary. Having said that, but they didn't think Su Zhe could ignore the terrifying space turbulence outside. But the next second. How is it possible? He is not affected. Pairs of eyes widened, and the surroundings were instantly in an uproar. Everyone's scalp was numb, staring blankly at Su Zhe who took a step forward and entered the space turbulence area, horrified. But the next second. Su Zhe. Su Zhe's body is so terrifying. Someone saw the clue. Su Zhe, wearing a flawless white robe, stepped into the turbulent space. No skills, just relying on the strength of the body. The terrifying turbulence that could strangle all saints now seemed so unbearable. Bang! 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 Loud noises continued to come from around Su Zhe's body, but they could do nothing. And every step he took made the turbulent space he stepped on, the flow area is even more violent. A deafening roar spread throughout this space. In the midst of shock. We can't let him take the supreme origin. Many monsters were anxious when they saw this. They had seen how powerful Su Zhe was before, and now they are taking action. But suddenly, Su Zhe, who was originally close to the ruins of the palace, turned around slowly, his face cold, and said faintly, "I want this supreme origin." Facing Su Zhe's words, the expressions of the human geniuses became complicated. The supreme origin, they naturally want to fight for it. But Su Zhe is like an insurmountable mountain, before anyone could speak. Such a good fortune, you want it just because you want it. Why? Even if you are the young master of the imperial Su family, so what? Since it is an ownerless good fortune, everyone has the right to fight for it. Humph, are you kidding? The monsters who came here to fight for the good fortune spoke first, and were extremely dissatisfied with Su Zhe's tyranny. That is the supreme origin. They don't care how terrible Su Zhe was before, and now he is almost crazy. In response. Then I can only kill you all. Su Zhe showed a grim smile on his face, raised his hand and the heavenly Tao Desolate sword appeared, and swung a sword in the direction of a large number of monsters. This sword made the area filled with terrifying turbulence even more violent, and the space was already showing signs of collapse. The boundless and dazzling sword light bloomed, and the sword energy swept out. The sword energy carrying the breath of heaven and the power of destruction penetrated the turbulent area and went straight outside. Boom boom. In an instant, the crazy monsters were instantly wiped out by the sweep of the shocking sword energy, without even any room for reaction. This sword flattened a large number of monsters. In an instant, this space fell into silence. Su Zhe's sword still had residual power, and the sword energy spread. After doing all this, you are not qualified to fight with me. I'm not just talking about monsters. If you don't accept it, just take a step forward. Su Zhe glanced at the vast figure outside, and the coldness in his eyes was undisguised. He said no more, turned around and walked towards the ruined palace again. With the blessing of the ancient holy body, his body seemed indestructible, and there was no need to care about the terrible turbulence around him. Seeing Su Zhe walking in the turbulence with big strides, the words full of murderous intent echoed in his ears. What a domineering guy. He didn't use his full strength in the previous sword. Supreme Origin, I thought I had a chance to compete, but Su Zhe didn't give me a chance at all. Alas, many human geniuses whose minds were originally occupied by desire and greed could not help but shiver and swallowed hard. Looking at Su Zhe's figure, they finally regained a trace of reason and sighed repeatedly. If they dared to take a step forward, Su Zhe would definitely slash another sword without hesitation, even if they were from the same Hunyuan realm. The remaining monsters looked at Su Zhe, who was already approaching the ruins of the palace, with fear, and no longer dared to have the slightest covetous heart. They calmed down a lot and retreated frantically. Now there are too many people from the Hunyuan realm gathered in this space. They have no chance to compete for the crazy Supreme Origin. If they stay here, they will definitely be surrounded and killed. Chapter 96. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The old man was very happy, and the old man was very happy. In the ruins palace, in the center of this huge ruins, Lin Yi's face was full of ecstasy. It's almost there, it's almost there. He couldn't hide his excitement, and his body was shaking. Now he is less than 100 feet away from the Supreme Origin. As long as he can get it, there will not be much difference between him and Su Zhe. After this, rise in one fell swoop. Not only to become famous in the battlefield outside the domain, but also to return to the Hunyuan realm to defeat a group of top monsters. But the most important thing, stand by Su Zhe. Smelly boy, work harder. Dan Chen's excited voice came out. This time, there will be no more accidents. As long as Lin Yi gets the Supreme Origin, with his own guidance, his rise is inevitable. Reshaping his body will not be a problem at that time. Lin Yi nodded and moved forward under the already terrifying pressure. Fortune, my fortune. His eyes were fanatical, and he roared, and he actually stepped out more than 10 feet. The Supreme Origin is right in front of him. As long as he gets it, he can soar. But the next second, Lin Yi felt a chill on his back, and a chill came over him, and he turned his head to look. You, how did you get here? The smile on his face froze, and he was almost frightened to the point of cardiac arrest, and his eyes suddenly widened. I saw Su Zhe, like a ghost, who had passed through the space turbulence and came to the ruins without knowing when. Even, at the distance that I had worked so hard to reach, Su Zhe was less than 20 feet away from me. Boom! Lin Yi's mind roared, he shuddered subconsciously, and his breathing became rapid. Su Zhe came over. He also wanted to fight for the Supreme Origin. His speed was so fast that it made him shudder. Even with the help of Dan Lao, it took him a long time to reach the ruins in that terrible turbulent space, and he was almost caught in the turbulence. Then Su Zhe not only came over, but also came behind him. Seeing Lin Yi who was frightened not far away. Even a waste like you can come here, what's so strange about me coming here? Su Zhe smiled and looked up at the pillar of light that was 100 feet away. The Supreme Origin was there. The breath emitted made the supreme bone in his chest become active. Hearing this, Lin Yi also noticed Su Zhe's gaze, and hostility appeared in his eyes. Are you going to take my fortune? He gritted his teeth, but he was worried inside. He hated Su Zhe to the bone. This guy was like a shadow, as if he would appear no matter what he did. Thinking of the repeated setbacks at the hands of Su Zhe, his body could not help but tremble. Su Zhe sneered and sneered, your fortune. This supreme origin, are you worthy of competing with me? After the words fell, he raised his hand and clapped it seemingly inadvertently. Bang! A huge force that was too late to react poured out instantly. Lin Yi's eyes widened, his legs bent and he almost knelt down. Taking away my fortune means cutting off my path to cultivation. Even if I try my best, I will make you pay for it, he roared, trembling to resist Su Zhe's attack, his eyes revealing madness. He was almost there, almost able to obtain the supreme soul origin that could change his fate. At the moment, he couldn't care that Su Zhe's strength was above his own. The opportunity to change his fate against the will of heaven must not be given up. Boy, it seems that there is no way out this time. Dan Chen's voice sounded in his mind. This time, he must not watch Lin Yi's fortune being taken away. Lin Yi offset Su Zhe's previous attack, his expression was solemn, his cultivation was blooming, and he said in a deep voice, Dan Lao, I'm in trouble. Let me pay the price. Are you worthy? This supreme origin is not something that a waste like you can get involved in, but Su Zhe didn't think so, with more sneers on his face, and his body soared into the air. In an instant, he pressed it with a palm. A huge palm appeared from the top of Lin Yi's head and fell down with a thunderous force. Bang! Lin Yi's eyes were red, and he roared, trying his best to take this blow. But the next second, he was slapped in the face by reality. As soon as the collision occurred, his body was directly submerged by the huge palm and slammed into the ground of the ruins. Bang ka! The entire ruins trembled, and the roar was endless. The ground was covered with shocking gullies. Under this palm, Lin Yi was injured and coughed up blood, his face full of unwillingness. Su Zhe! He roared like a madman, even though he felt severe pain, he jumped out of the deep pit with the rage in his heart. Looking up at Su Zhe who was looking down at him, he trembled all over and his breath was chaotic. But at this moment, a powerful breath that did not belong to him burst out. Under the gazes outside the ruins. You have disturbed my state of mind again and again, and you have come again this time. Lin Yi's expression was ferocious, the anger in his eyes gushed out, and he trembled all over and said, this time, I will fight you to the end, the supreme origin, you can't take it away. Under boundless anger, he raised his hand and pinched his fingers, and a huge cauldron that covered the sky and the sun appeared in the void. It was filled with a terrifying atmosphere. Lin Yi shouted loudly, and controlled the cauldron to suppress Su Zhe fiercely. Boom boom. The ruins collapsed, the ground cracked, and even the turbulence outside poured into the ruins. It can be seen that he has already used up all his strength. Su Zhe looked up and said jokingly, waste is waste after all. Do you think you can compete with me with this power that does not belong to you? With a chill on his face, he pointed to the sky. Netherworld annihilation finger. Buzz, the whole space trembled violently. The breath of the underworld emerged. A shocking crack appeared in the sky. It seemed that a door to the underworld was opened. Instantly, the whole ruins began to collapse. The violent turbulence began to rage. The supreme pressure came down. At this time, Su Zhe looked at Lin Yi, who seemed unable to bear such a heavy load and was shaking, with a cold gaze, not far away, and grinned, old thing, since you, a remnant soul, want to join in the fun, I will teach you a lesson. A little waste, an old waste, where do you get the confidence? As soon as the voice fell, the sky and the earth darkened. The entire ruins seemed to be descending from the underworld. A finger filled with the breath of annihilation and flickering with a faint light quickly fell. At any time, the cauldron trembled. Bang! It exploded without any signs. Lin Yi vomited blood and retreated, his face horrified. During this period, Supreme pressure. A muffled groan came from the void, and the voice trembled. At this moment, Su Zhe seemed to be the only existence in this ruin. The finger with terrifying power shattered the terrible cauldron, and fell into the void with a monstrous momentum. Under the horrified gazes. No! Lin Yi roared with a pale face, his eyes full of fear, and was instantly crushed by the finger of annihilation. Under this absolute power, he could not resist, even if he borrowed the power of Dan Lao, it was useless. The huge palace ruins began to collapse on a large scale, and the raging violent waves raged in all directions. Chapter 97. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The king of the world, who can fight Su Zhe? The netherworld appears at the tip of a finger, what a terrifying magical power. Lin Yi can only consider himself unlucky. He is in the same era as the Holy Sun, so he is destined to be incomparable and can only look up to him. Fortunately, I calmed down, otherwise I would have died in the hands of this Su Shao. Su Zhe, he will undoubtedly become the pillar of the human race in the future, and the human race will have another supreme, even an emperor. Outside the ruins of the palace, everyone present was moved and felt inferior. Every time Su Zhe made a move, it was unexpected. Just now, none of them dared to say that they could withstand the terrifying power of the world. Because Su Zhe's terrifying magical power actually contained the breath of the Supreme. No one knew, that as the young master of the Su family and the holy son of the Supreme Tao sect, Su Zhe's upper limit was how high. Su Shengzi. Son, Dai Ji and Qin Wanjun spoke almost at the same time, their beautiful eyes were full of shock. Their understanding of Su Zhe's strength was refreshed again. But the next second, the two of them looked at each other fiercely, and the atmosphere began to be wrong. However, no one noticed this scene. Others were staring blankly at the direction of the ruins, Su Zhe in the void. This is the hope of the human race in the future. Elder Ouyang shouted excitedly after being shocked. At the moment, he no longer cared whether he lost his composure or not, he only knew that he had seen the Holy Sun who had been invincible since he set foot on the battlefield outside the domain. Looking at Su Zhe's eyes full of expectation and ecstasy, that he saw a supreme, an emperor rising. And his words inspired the people present. Congratulations to the Su family in advance, congratulations to the human race for having another strongest person. Some people cheered, and 100 people responded. Outside the ruins, it was completely boiling. The supreme origin among them? No one had any ideas anymore. Even if there were, they could only suppress it. Su Zhe, no one could compete with him at this scene. While the outside of the ruins was boiling, Su Zhe looked coldly at the bottomless pit caused by the previous attack. Two pieces of trash, one big and one small, are worthy of stopping me, he spoke slowly, with disdain in his eyes, for an existence like this, only the plot in the original book can make it rise. But he will not be like his predecessor in the original book, who will become the villain emperor who dominates the heavens. The opportunity and fortune that belong to Lin Yi in the battlefield outside the domain are within his reach. And at this time. Host successfully suppressed the Son of Destiny with absolute strength, and obtained plus 6,000 villain value. A system prompt sounded in his mind, Su Zhe was satisfied. The previous attack was not enough to wipe out Lin Yi. At most, it would seriously injure him and cause the old man to fall asleep again. Supreme origin, that he disdained to think too much and looked at the huge light column 100 feet ahead. Among them there was a floating bright light group, and the void next to it was full of mist. It's time to pick up the results of this interception. After crossing the deep pit, Su Zhe walked towards the center of the ruins where the supreme origin was located. Simple. Faced with the terrible pressure, he didn't care. It was because the supreme bone in his body dissipated most of the pressure, making him feel like walking on flat ground. Just when Suze was less than 10 feet away from the supreme origin. That's mine, mine. A weak voice came from behind him, and then turned into a roar full of resentment and anger. In the deep pit, Lin Yi, who was covered in blood and had a weak breath, had already vacated, staring at Suze with a crazy face. Mine, mine. Ah! He roared again with all his might, and let out a tragic cry. He had finally seen the good fortune, but he never dreamed that it would be intercepted by Suze. Reluctant, angry, resentful, sad, endless thoughts surged into his heart. Even though Lin Yi was seriously injured, he forced his trembling body to stand, staring at Suze as if to express silent protest. Stop making noise, get out of here. Suze frowned slightly and slapped him dozens of feet away. Bang! 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 Lin Yi turned into a cannonball like a dead dog, hitting the ruins and causing a blast. Puff! His breath became weaker and weaker as he coughed up blood, as if the fire of life would go out at any time. At this moment, he felt the shadow of death looming over him. But, Lin Yi's eyes were full of despair now. Why? He didn't understand, let alone accept it. His fortune was taken by Suze, and now his plan to change his fate against the will of heaven has become a bubble. He was so angry that he struggled for a while, but couldn't stand up anymore. Suze retracted his gaze, not taking it seriously at all. It's quiet now. Amid the fearful eyes outside, he looked back at the supreme origin. As if he was familiar with it, he didn't worry about any restrictions at all, and directly reached out with one hand and held it in his hand. But it was precisely because of this. Boom! A huge sound spread throughout the ruins. The space was shaking. At the same time, the whole world was constantly exploding, and the red terrifying vortex in the sky kept surging. The overwhelming supreme aura descended. To suppress everything. Outside the ruins, Ouyang Chen, Qin Wanjun and others suddenly changed their faces, and their hearts were shaking. Holy Sun, be careful. Their scalps exploded and they cried out in shock. This breath made their souls tremble. There was no way to resist. All the people's breath was suppressed, and they were even suffocated to death under this terrifying breath. One by one, their eyes were filled with fear and terror, and some people even fled directly when they felt the shadow of death. That was the real breath of the Supreme. Almost at the moment when this breath appeared. Swish! 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 Point one after another, terrifying divine senses came from all directions in an instant. It's the supreme origin. A surprised voice came from the depths of the battlefield. But the next second, the entire space was isolated, and countless divine senses were isolated outside. At this time, the strange phenomenon of heaven and earth, the terrifying breath of the Supreme descended into the ruins. The space turbulence was raging wildly. But, Suze looked quite calm, staring at the void in front of him, not affected at all. A light exclamation sounded, the space exploded. From in front of him, a supreme figure slowly appeared. This was a man who looked quite young, with stars in his eyes and a handsome face. Ka ka ka, his appearance made the ruins roar instantly, as if cheering and welcoming its owner. The vision disappeared, and the turbulent space around stopped raging. There was a divine light that penetrated the endless void flowing on the body of this young man, and a simple grey cloth was like an extraordinary battle suit, with boundless majesty between his eyebrows. At this moment, he was the master of this world. The Supreme is coming. In an instant, the breath fluctuation spread, and the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. Outside the ruins, countless people were pale and their bodies kept shaking. Plop! Plop! They fell to their knees uncontrollably, wanting to kneel down and worship this terrifying supreme being who dominated the entire world. Chapter 98. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The king of the country, Suze looked at the supreme in front of him, and even looked him up and down. He is the Supreme who left behind the origin of the Supreme, a remnant of consciousness. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart, and a flash of surprise flashed in his eyes. It's just the remaining consciousness, but it can still have such great power. Worthy of being the Supreme. Seeing the people kneeling, the Supreme and Commoner slowly set his eyes on Suze and said lightly, why don't you kneel when you see me? That the voice was not loud, but it revealed supreme majesty. It fell into everyone's ears, like endless thunder exploding. This is the Supreme. Even if it's just a consciousness. Let's not talk about you being just a remnant of consciousness in the world. Even if you are your true self, why should I kneel? Suze asked back, not showing any panic, neither humble nor arrogant. This sentence immediately made Dai Ji, Elder Ouyang and others outside feel nervous. The Holy Sun. Their scalps were numb and their hearts were shaking wildly. Although it was just a remnant of consciousness, it was also the Supreme. The Supreme clothes squinted his eyes slightly, and the surrounding space was collapsing. Interesting. He was surprised that Suze was not affected, and asked curiously, "Tell me where you are from and your name." The voice seemed to have infinite magic, echoing in all directions, pulling countless laws. Obviously, the young man in front of him, who was less than 20 years old, made him interested. Suze held the supreme origin left by the other party in his hand, looked at him, and chuckled. The Emperor clan of Hunyuan realm, the young master of the Su family, Suze. Imperial clan. Su family. Puzzles appeared on the handsome face of the supreme commoner, and then he seemed to recall and finally shook his head. Obviously, the era he existed in was too long ago. I have never heard of such a family. But it can be called an imperial clan, and there must be a great emperor in the clan. The supreme commoner was more interested and joked, "If I don't give you the thing in your hand, what will you do?" "Senior, I came first, he robbed my opportunity." Before Suze could speak, Lin Yi, who had woken up in the distance, was kneeling on the ground, raising his head and shouting with difficulty. Hearing this, the supreme commoner glanced at him lightly and snorted, "Did I ask you?" Suddenly, Lin Yi trembled violently, coughed up blood again, and looked terrified. The other party's cold snort was enough to make his soul tremble, and he stepped half a foot into the gate of hell. Under the extreme frustration, he vomited blood and fainted directly. Commoner Supreme retracted his gaze and looked at Suze again without saying anything, as if waiting for an answer. Suze's expression revealed confidence, looking at the supreme origin in his hand and smiled, "It can only be mine. No one else is qualified to take it except me." "Are you so sure?" "Of course." "Okay, let me see." Commoner Supreme has not finished speaking, and this world is already filled with overwhelming pressure. Even if there is only a residual consciousness left, it still carries supreme power. Suze is naturally familiar with this set of procedures. After all, he has read the original text. Now he feels the terrifying pressure from the suppression, and a smile appears at the corner of his mouth. Boom! The supreme bone on his chest glowed with divine light, and in an instant it seemed as if he was wearing a sacred battle suit. The pervasive supreme aura formed an invisible collision between the two sides. At any moment, the entire ruins were collapsing, and the space was constantly exploding. Feeling the aura on Suze. This supreme bone. The pupils of the commoner supreme shrank, and there was a look of surprise in his eyes. But the next second, he restrained his breath, and after his expression calmed down, he suddenly laughed again. The laughter became louder and louder, making the world resound. Under the concerns of Qin Wanjun, Xian Ping and others, Suze just watched quietly without saying a word. Finally, the commoner supreme's eyes fell on Suze again, and after looking at him, there was a look of admiration in his eyes. "Many people came here before, but they all died. Do you know why?" That he pointed at the countless dry bones piled up like a mountain at the edge of the ruins. Seeing that Suze did not speak, he continued, "Because they only know how to flatter and kneel when they see me. I look down on such people, and they will naturally pay the price for their greed. But you are different. The younger generation of the human race has a true dragon, the young supreme. This supreme origin is yours. Hearing the other party's high evaluation of him, Suze did not, too happy, just nodded. The supreme commoner laughed again, but soon, his face darkened. Outside the Hunyuan realm, this is. The demons from outside the domain invaded the heavens, wanting to destroy the heavens and bring the end of the heavens. Now the Hunyuan realm has started a war with the demons. Seeing the supreme commoner who had already noticed something was wrong, Suze spoke coldly. Hearing this, the supreme commoner's eyes were cold, and he finally sighed. The end of the heavens. He glanced around again, and a helpless look appeared on his face. After a moment, he looked at Suze deeply. You will become a sharp blade to deal with those demons. I don't belong to this era, and now it's time to dissipate. The supreme commoner smiled freely and was constantly dissipating, until the last moment, it turned into a sky full of stars. At the same time, the entire palace ruins were also rapidly turning into nothingness on a large scale. It seems to follow the supreme commoner. Seeing this, Suze took a deep breath, bowed slightly in the direction where the supreme commoner disappeared, and then left. The host successfully changed the plot of the Son of Destiny in the extraterritorial battlefield, intercepted his fortune, successfully plundered his luck value 10%, and obtained 30,000 villain value. In his mind, the voice of the system suddenly came. In an instant, Suze was shocked, and he could clearly feel that something seemed to have descended on him, causing the world to roar. Luck. There was a gleam in his eyes, and a deep smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. When he left, he saw Lin Yi in a coma. Bang! Suze kicked him out of the ruins like a ball. This guy can still be pulled. When he can't pull it anymore, it's not too late to give him a good time. Amidst the roars, Suze left the palace ruins, and Lin Yi stopped after rolling for hundreds of feet, his life or death uncertain. At this time, the huge ruins were rapidly dissipating, turning into nothingness. Seeing this scene. Hiss! The sound of gasps rang out all around. Countless eyes fell on Suze almost at the same time, with unprecedented shock. What did the Commoner Supreme say before? Young Master Su is a human dragon, a young Supreme. Didn't he say that young Master Su will definitely become the Supreme? Isn't that nonsense? With my son's supreme talent and so many opportunities, not to mention that he has obtained the origin of the Supreme, it is hard not to become the Supreme. In the future, those monsters will definitely tremble at young Master Su's feet and look up to him. The human race will have another Supreme. No. Young Master Su is extremely talented, and will definitely be able to reach the Emperor realm. The people present shouted loudly and raised their arms in horror. In addition to envy, they were also excited and excited. In an instant, the whole battlefield was boiling, and there was a carnival. Chapter 99. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The two of them were so happy that they were able to get married. Congratulations, Brother Su. Xin Ping saw Suze coming back and hurried forward. Mu Qing also took small steps, her pretty face full of admiration. Brother Suze, you were so handsome just now. Her eyes lit up and she spoke in surprise. Seeing the two of them like this, Suze chuckled at this time. Is this the supreme origin? What an amazing power. If you can absorb it, Brother Su's strength should be able to break through the Saint realm in one fell swoop, right? Mu Qing and Xin Ping looked at the supreme origin in Suze's hand with curiosity, and couldn't help but exclaim. Elder Ouyang, Qin Wanjun and all the disciples of Dao sect came. Congratulations to the Holy Son for winning the supreme origin, they spoke in unison, with a strong look in their eyes. The supreme origin, this great fortune is now in the hands of the Holy Son. A supreme is already rising. Dai Ji was shocked, and her purple eyes were filled with Suze's current appearance. Congratulations to the Holy Son Su, she smiled charmingly, and said charmingly, the Holy Son Su has made a name for himself in the battlefield outside the domain, and now he has obtained the supreme origin. In the future, he will definitely ascend to the supreme, no. To the emperor. Looking at Su Zhe's purple eyes, he was already distracted. This man is too outstanding, even the supreme in clothes who fell here gave him a very high evaluation. At this time, on the battlefield on the edge. Congratulations to the young master of the Su family. With this good fortune, it is just a matter of time to achieve the supreme. The human race in the Hunyuan world, no. The human race in the heavens will have another supreme, and perhaps another emperor. It is worthy of the Su family to be able to cultivate such an excellent existence as the young Master Su. Congratulations to the young Master Su, congratulations to the Su family. We are now witnessing the birth of a supreme. Not only at the scene, congratulations came from all directions, the whole sky was shaking, and all humans were boiling. At this moment, breaks of good news came. The demons and geniuses thrown into the battlefield are retreating. Today's battle ended in victory. Countless eyes fell on Su Zhe with horror. Young Master Su's military merit points are close to 1 million. So many. Oh my God, if you hadn't told me, I wouldn't have noticed. Young Master Su is truly invincible in the battlefield outside the domain. Who among his peers can match him? The military merit points obtained by Su Zhe once again set off an uproar. In today's fight with monsters. Su Zhe, who became the young master of the imperial family, showed his invincibility and won nearly 1 million terrifying military merit points in one fell swoop. Far ahead of anyone. A horse that left everyone in the dust. In the boiling. Ha ha ha. A hearty laugh came from afar. A black battle armor came into everyone's eyes. Su Zhe took a big step, directly passed through the void, and came to Su Zhe. Supreme Origin, nephew, how come you are so lucky? When he saw the Supreme Origin in Su Zhe's hand, his eyes widened and he looked extremely envious. The value of this thing is immeasurable. You should know that the Supreme Origin, which can only appear when the Supreme falls, was obtained by the nephew in front of him. The most important thing is that the nephew shocked everyone present and the monsters who wanted to fight for it. I had noticed the terrifying supreme aura spreading in this battlefield before, but now, the residual consciousness left by the supreme has dissipated, and his supreme origin was obtained by the nephew. He took another look at the black stone jade plate on Su Zhe's waist. Nephew, when did you become so active? Su Zhe's face was full of disbelief. He took a deep breath, retreated repeatedly, and stared at Su Zhe with helplessness on his face. How could this kid have such a big change? Even though he knew that Su Zhe would no longer neglect his cultivation like before, he didn't expect that his nephew would have such an amazing performance. Not only was he able to shock so many geniuses, he even slaughtered monsters that could accumulate nearly 1 million military merit points. Among them was a king-level warrior. Hearing this. Uncle 15, is that necessary? Su Zhe spoke unhappily, quite helpless, but Su Zhe immediately glared and said, is that necessary? Do you know how many people, your father, your second uncle, your third uncle, hoped that you would grow up before this? You passed on the first day. I have obtained nearly 1 million military merit points by slaughtering monsters, and I have obtained the Supreme Origin. If this news reaches their ears, who knows how happy they will be. TSK. My nephew has finally grown up. If you keep going like this, I'm afraid it won't be long before you can be on the Demon Slayer list. He looked at Su Zhe with joy, and the more he looked, the more he smiled. Until the end, he even laughed out loud. Demon Slayer list. The others' expressions changed, and their breathing became rapid. Su Zhe's eyes flashed with brilliance, and he recalled the relevant information in his mind. The Demon Slayer list contains the famous Jianjiao of the entire Hunyuan continent in the battlefield outside the domain. He muttered secretly in his heart, his eyes flashing. In addition to the east, west, south, north and Zhongzhou, the Hunyuan continent also has a vast and boundless sea of universe and a self-contained Tiangang realm. This big world contains countless the powerful geniuses. Especially the universe sea, which is extremely mysterious, and most of the forces in it are terrible forbidden areas. As for the Tiangang realm, it is also vast, no smaller than the 4 major domains and 1 large state. And the Demon Slayer list contains the strongest geniuses of the entire Hunyuan continent. It is undoubtedly an honor to be on this list. After all, this is the Hunyuan continent killing monsters outside the domain. In addition to strength, the people on the list must also have an impressive record, and it is the most authoritative list against monsters outside the domain on the battlefield. While Suze was thinking about things. "Nephew, let's go, today's war will come to an end first, and Uncle 15 will hold a celebration banquet for you." Suze laughed loudly, it was rare to be so happy. He pulled Suze up and returned to the border station. This kid's performance was beyond his expectations, which was undoubtedly a big surprise. At the celebration banquet, the young master will be another supreme of the Su family. What is the supreme? In my opinion, the young master has the appearance of an emperor. Yes, that's right, ahaha. Su family soldiers, many generals and one after another happily raised their glasses and drank together, and their congratulations were endless. Laughter and joy continued. Suze undoubtedly became the subject of discussion among most people. In today's war with monsters, he alone caused 2 massacres, and even killed a monster's king-level commander with the cultivation of a saint. No one can match such a record. Many Tianjiao were eclipsed and felt inferior. When the celebration banquet was halfway through, the war is far from over. Suze did not stay for too long, but returned to the luxurious tent where he lived, with a lot of expectations for the war to come. Chapter 100. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The battle is about to begin. Outside the battlefield, not only the 9th war zone guarded by the Su family, the war between the other 8 war zones and the monsters has almost never stopped. The Hunyuan continent has invested the Tianjiao under the Zunwang realm to participate in the war, using such a blood and fire, life and death method to allow more people to adapt to the future war. Of course, the monsters outside the domain are also using the same method to hone the younger generation of Tianjiao. In addition to the monsters to be faced by the 9th war zone, the other 8 war zones will also face a huge army of monsters, and the war will not stop. And this time the war between the Hunyuan continent and the monsters outside the domain is undoubtedly a fight that will bathe the younger generation in the fire of war. Once the real war begins, the degree of cruelty will be far beyond the current level. Only if you are strong enough, you can survive on the battlefield. Strength is the foundation. Only if you are strong enough, can you gain a foothold on the battlefield, let the monsters be afraid, and control your destiny. In the fight with the monsters, Suze had a lot of feelings, and the fighting spirit in his eyes rose. It's really exciting. He showed a cold smile on his face, and if someone saw it, they would be moved. He took out the supreme origin he had obtained before, and swallowed it into his mouth. The origin contains the power of the supreme. Not only that, it has a great effect on improving cultivation. The most important thing is that the supreme origin contains the power of the law. If you can absorb it, there is a chance to obtain the supreme origin, which is the law that the commoner supreme had comprehended before. In the original text, after Lin Yi obtained the supreme origin, his cultivation increased greatly, and he obtained the law of the commoner supreme. It is precisely because of this that he can rise in the battlefield outside the domain. After that, he rose up completely in the Supreme Tao sect, and then defeated all the great geniuses and monsters. After swallowing the supreme origin, suddenly, Suze's whole body shook, his chest rose and fell, and the supreme bone shone with divine light. Bang bang bang. He trembled, and there were continuous firecracker-like sounds coming out of his body. A monstrous force spread throughout his internal organs, meridians, and the surrounding space was crackling. It seemed that it could not withstand the collapse. Suze could feel that due to the existence of the supreme bone in his body, the violent power of the supreme origin was divided a lot, and it was absorbed very smoothly without causing any discomfort. The law of time. His cultivation was skyrocketing, and the divine light on his body became more and more brilliant. A beam of light rushed straight into the sky, causing ripples in the void, like a stormy sea. But what he was most looking forward to was the law comprehension that was now pouring into his mind. It was the law of time mastered by the supreme commoner. In the space beside Su Zhe's body, golden patterns that looked like text but were not text kept appearing, more and more, until they covered the sky. Buzz, that he closed his eyes tightly, and the sky was buzzing. The patterns in the sky were large and small, bright and dark, some were circling rapidly, and some were still. At the same time, they also exuded amazing power of laws. Su Zhe seemed to be sitting in meditation, but his aura was constantly rising, and a terrifying wave spread in all directions. Boom boom. In an instant, the whole station shook, and the endless golden patterns had strong law fluctuation spreading. Everyone's expression suddenly changed, and they suddenly looked in the direction of Su Zhe. This breath. Young master. What is the saint? What is the son of saint doing? What are those golden patterns? Such a terrible fluctuation, no, it's the power of the law. At this moment, when the terrifying fluctuation of the supreme breath caused a sensation in the station, the golden patterns in the sky once again stunned everyone. Everyone looked at the sky and took a breath of cold air. Su Zhe soared into the air, and his spiritual sense probed out, and saw Su Zhe, who was in a state of concentration. This kid's cultivation is skyrocketing, he. Not only is he going to break through, he is also comprehending the law. Is this the law of time? His expression changed, and his heart trembled wildly. He really didn't expect the movement caused by Su Zhe, and now he was even more surprised. Not only is his nephew going to break through, the fluctuations of those golden patterns are actually the law of time. Now, is this definitely the young master of the Su family, his own good nephew? Su Zhe was in a state of doubt and confusion, his body gradually began to tremble, and then his breathing became unstable. Good boy, ha ha ha. Although there was a strong shock in his eyes, shocked, but soon, a look of ecstasy appeared on his handsome face. My nephew, he has really changed. This kid's talent is too terrifying. Not only is he absorbing the supreme origin, but he is also trying to comprehend the law of time from it. Bang, suddenly, Su Zhe stepped into the air and headed straight for Su Zhe. Elder Ouyang, Dai Ji, Qin Wanjun and others also followed without hesitation. As for the others, they all took to the air and probed out their spiritual senses. At this moment, Su Zhe once again attracted everyone's attention. The whole station was boiling. Su Zhe's cultivation aura was spreading continuously, and the sky was roaring continuously. The power of the law emanating from the golden patterns all over the sky was also becoming more and more amazing. This means that Su Zhe is about to master the law of time. When Su Zhe and others arrived. Boom! A roar that shook the 8 directions, the brilliant divine light illuminated the entire world. Countless divine consciousnesses were shocked even more. The light of the supreme bone on Su Zhe's chest became more and more brilliant, and the aura emanating from it was enough to move the existence of the entire station. With the howling wind and the explosion of space, his cultivation finally broke through. He reached the peak of the saint. Just when everyone thought it was over. Bang bang bang. Continuous roars came from Su Zhe's body. The aura of his cultivation was still soaring. It seemed that there was no shackles, and he was impacting the king realm without any worries. In an instant. How is this possible? Exclamations arose everywhere, and everyone was horrified. Even Su Zhe was numbed by the sight. This kid. He was already incoherent, his chest was heaving violently, and his mind was already blank. This nephew wanted to break through to the king realm in one fell swoop. Every time you advance to a small realm, it will be more difficult to improve. But now, this nephew of mine was not restrained at all, and his cultivation was skyrocketing. The heaven and earth were full of strange phenomena. Above the station, a boundless vortex was forming. The breath of heaven was pervasive, filled with endless thunder. Amid the thunder, under the spread of the power of the rules of time, as Suze's body trembled suddenly, a wave of king realm cultivation swept across the 8 directions. Bang Ka, thought since breaking through to the peak of the saint, he was not restrained by anything and broke through the king realm in one fell swoop. Around him, the space was already shaky. The sky above seemed to be about to collapse at any time. Even though it was only the first level of the king. It was much stronger than when Suze was the 9th level of the saint. The vast aura resounded through the sky and the earth, causing the entire station to shake violently, and the deafening roar continued.